Hey everybody, I'm on a lot of the Facebook groups trying to help new pilgrims with a lot of the questions that they've got for their first time on Camino, and you'll see a lot of the questions, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, coming up again and again. So I'm going to cover as many as I can right now of the most commonly asked questions. Now let's not forget, a lot of my answers are also my opinions. I favour a really light backpack. I feel that if you're carrying less, it gives you a lot more capacity to enjoy your Camino more. So you'll find quite a lot of my opinions are based on keeping everything light and easy. So question 1, how many pairs of shoes do I need to take with me? I see this one quite a lot, and people are doing a lot of just in case kind of thing. So I might have my trail runners to wear during the daytime, and then maybe I need something in the afternoon, like a pair of walking sandals for the afternoon, a pair of shoes to wear in the evening, and of course some flip-flops for the shower. You're up to about 2 kilos already there. That's about half the weight of my backpack just in shoes. What you need are, in my opinion, the shoes that you wear during the daytime, and then the shoes that you wear in the albergue. That's it. Keep it nice and light. You only want to be carrying your albergue shoes in your backpack. The next one is, do I need a sleeping bag? Well, going from between April and October, personally for me, certainly on the French way, no, you don't need a sleeping bag unless you're a particularly cold sleeper. Last year in 2022, I took the temperature every night in the albergues right next to my bunk bed to see what it was, and it ranged between 71 degrees Fahrenheit and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think in centigrade is an average of 25 degrees centigrade. So the best way to tell if you're a cold sleeper or a hot sleeper is to set your heating to about 25 degrees C, 75 Fahrenheit at home, and see if you need a sleeping bag. If you don't need a sleeping bag, then I think you're fine with just a liner. Don't forget, you can always put on a fleece or your puffy jacket or something like that if you're feeling really cold. So don't pack too heavy. Now that of course is advice for the French way. If you're doing other Caminos, and certainly more isolated ones like Salvador Primitivo, Badinienche, that sort of thing, then maybe it's possible, because you're going up it higher in the mountains and stuff, that maybe a really ultralight sleeping bag is the case. Don't get fooled by marketing as well. They'll call ultralight sleeping bag right the way up to 1 kilo. An ultralight sleeping bag weighs less than 400 grams. Maybe you can find one for about 250 to 300 grams, but that's where price comes into it. Do I need GoreTex or non-GoreTex shoes? For anybody really new, GoreTex is a waterproof membrane. Now they're designed for walking in wet grass, for keeping your feet a bit warmer when walking in snow. What they're not good for is torrential rain all day. They're not the rubber Wellington boots. And if GoreTex does get wet, it's going to stay wet for a lot longer. If you use non-GoreTex, non-waterproof, yes, when it rains your feet are going to get wet pretty much straight away. But if it's only occasional rain, if it's something like a hot day but you need to walk through a stream and your feet are getting wet but then it's going to stay dry, then non-GoreTex are the better ones, because they dry super fast just from the heat of your feet while you're walking. So for me, again, my own opinion, those same months, if it's between April and October, I'll go non-GoreTex. If my feet get a bit wet, that's all right, and I know that wet feet are blister zone, but if you're using the chafing gel that I show in the description, which is below, in fact, if you have a look at the description below, in all of my videos, I show my entire packing list, everything that I've got, things that you can quite easily just click on it and buy it straight away from Amazon. No fuss for you. It gives me a little bit of money, but it doesn't cost you any extra. So please feel free to support the channel and buy your gear by the links in the description. Another big question is, what size backpack do I need if I'm 5'10"? Well, this height makes absolutely no difference on backpacks. Backpacks come in a small, medium or large. The occasional one is a one size fits all and it's adjustable. But a backpack is sized on torso length. from the kind of the lump there in the back of your spine down to your hip bone, iliac crest, I think it's called. And that's how it's measured, and then different companies will have a different version of whether, however many inches that is a small, medium or large. You get that, and then you choose the capacity that you want. So the height is nothing to do with it. It's just about getting the size that fits you, get measured up in an outdoor store before you buy your backpack, and then choose your capacity from there. Something between I think a 25 litre, just to give a bit of comfort, right the way up to a 50 litre, but only if the 50 litre is a really light backpack. You don't want to be going over 1 kilo really on your backpack. If you're trying to aim at carrying less than 5 kilos, you don't want the backpack itself to weigh 20% of that. Another big question is, what do I do if I can't find a bed? Do I need to book ahead 6 months to make sure I've got a bed? What do I do? Well, the problem is generally caused, the panic is caused when everybody is trying to go into the busiest months. The 2 busiest months right now are May and September. So if you're trying to go into those months, and you're also trying to stay at the end of stage destinations that the Brierley guidebook and some of the apps use, then maybe you're going to find there's a bit of a bed race going on. You can get rid of that entirely by not going in May or September and choosing a different month, or alternatively you can choose not to stay every night in the capital cities, the place where everybody else is wanting to stay. By doing that, you're in a more private kind of Camino, and there's less of a race for it if everybody else is trying to stay elsewhere. So, do you need to panic about getting a bed? No. So even if you get to the town where you were thinking of staying, and for some bizarre reason all the beds have gone, certainly on a Camino like the Frances, all you need to do is probably walk about another 20 minutes to the next town, and there's an albergue right there. There's so much availability. I don't think you need to book ahead. I would suggest, however, that you book ahead on your very first night. So again, if you're doing the French way, book St. Jean. If you're doing the north from Irun, book Irun. At least that way then you're not getting in any kind of panic on your first night. And look ahead at the last 100k. There's a lot of people that just do the last 100k on a Camino. So it does get 5 or 6 times busier in that last 100k. So again, you're probably all right if you're not trying to stay in the main towns, but it might be worth a little bit just having a look to make sure, figure it out as you go. Now, another question that I got asked really recently, about 20 seconds ago actually, is how much money would I need? Well, that depends on how you want to do the Camino. If you want to stay in hotels and you want to eat in Michelin star restaurants, obviously you're going to need quite a lot of money. If you're looking to see how much you could do it on a budget, the normal way of doing it, well, albergues at the cheapest are now in 2023 about €8, 10 euros. A pilgrim meal, 12 to 15 euros, something like that. So let's say we're now at 25 euros plus a few coffees and things during the day. 30 to 35 euros is a very economical way of doing Camino. Allowing about 50 euros a day would be a comfortable but pilgrim way of doing it. If you want to add in a few more treats, and like I did on one of the videos earlier in my series, you'll need substantially more if you're going to accidentally order a 70 euro meal. Another question is, what do I do in a medical emergency? Certainly if I'm not from Europe. You wouldn't believe the amount of pharmacies and medical centres that are along the Camino in almost every town. There's a pharmacy, and pharmacies work a little bit differently on Camino. People there are generally, there's somebody in a pharmacy that's licensed to prescribe drugs. They certainly have some very strong version of vitamin I, ibuprofen, and they're relatively cheap. So if you went for blisters, for example, your blisters are out of control and you think you need some real help, That would cost you about €50 to privately, in a medical centre, ask for them to treat that and get you set up. If it's something more, if there's something, really bad, then I'm hoping you've got some kind of travel insurance to help with that. But what you don't need to do is to take a massive 1 kilo first aid kit with you. Just take the minimal amount, because almost every town has got a pharmacy. Almost. Another handy tip to remember, there are times where it may be a lot more serious and it's, well, what is it? Is it 911? Is it 999? What's the emergency number in Spain? It's 112. Another thing that you could do is called, I think it's called Cop Alert or Police Alert. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen, but there's an app that you can get so you don't have to worry about the language. And there's something right there where if you were in an alarming situation where you can let the police know. And one great thing about the Camino is they really support it. They realise how important the Camino is. Not just historically, but to the country economically as well. And they have their own police for the Camino, and they will really support it and help you if you need help. Another very common question is, can I take a tent on the Camino? Well, you're not supposed to. It's not considered a thing that's to do. It's much like the US, with different states having different rules, the different municipalities and things in Spain have got different rules, but on pretty much all of them, it's not looked good on. So that's why we've got all the albergues and everything set up there, so that you can sleep quite cheaply indoors. Probably a lot cheaper than you could pay somebody to put your tent up on private land. Of course, people do it. The rule with that, of course, if you are going to be somebody that does it, is you don't put your shelter up until after it's got dark. Your shelter then must be away before it gets light, and you leave absolutely no trace that you were there, because you will be on private land, you will be trespassing. And if the police come along and they want to, they can issue a serious fine. They may let you off, they may give you a big fine. Depends if you're a gambler. Another really big one that gets asked a lot is about bed bugs. People are terrified of bed bugs because they read all over the place that the Camino is infested with bed bugs. And it isn't. In all the Caminos I've done, I've never been bitten by a bed bug. I've never seen a bed bug. I've never met anybody that's been bitten by a bed bug. Now, they do exist, much like people getting struck by lightning exists, but it doesn't mean that you have to coat everything in poison to try and avoid bed bugs. Albergues are very strictly controlled. If anything happens, they have to close and fumigate. So everything is really there, that it is highly, highly unlikely that you will ever see a bed bug. So try and put that fear out of your mind straight away. Much like bed bugs, is theft a common thing on the Camino? No. I've never had anything stolen off me either. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and obviously you need to, if you're going out of the albergue, take your money, take your passport and those sort of things with you, but you don't have to worry that there are people going around stealing everybody's backpacks and that sort of thing. It's a very, very rare event, probably rarer than would happen in your own town or city. Another huge question, I'm a solo female and want to walk the Camino Frances. Is it safe? Well, you're not going to be alone for long. There are thousands and thousands of people walking the French way, and most of them are alone at the start. You soon meet people, and then you're not walking alone. You can walk alone if you want to, or you can walk with other people if you want to. But the whole feel of the Camino, the pilgrim spirit, means it's a lot safer than it would be probably walking anywhere else in the world. I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but don't forget to check the description below. In there you can buy things that I recommend for Camino to put in your backpack. You can even buy the backpack off there. And there's also a way to say thank you if I've helped you. If you're feeling that pilgrim spirit and you want to say thanks very much, some of those tips helped me, look for the Buy Me a Coffee link there. You can say thank you for the price of a coffee, and believe me, I will very much appreciate it. Another question is, do I need walking poles? Well, they're very useful, especially on the hills, but you need to know how to use them properly. I see people quite often using walking poles wrong, and that's just working against them. There is a video on my channel. Certainly if you're subscribed, you'll be able to go to playlists, hints and tips, and there you'll find all kinds of stuff like moving baggage, and one that shows how to use walking poles. They're quite recommended and you can buy them there. I'll link in one more question with that, which is, can I take them in my carry-on? Well, that depends on the airport. They have the final say, and quite a lot of them take them off you and confiscate them. So the best way is when you get to the start of the Camino, there's always generally a shop in the first place where you can just buy a cheap pair of walking poles and give those a go. If there are any other burning questions that I've not covered, please put them in the comment section below. I'm very quick to respond and I'd love to help you if I can. Buen Camino, everyone.